It's your boy Nguder in the house, back with another bang on video where, ladies and gentlemen, Inter Milan are not in talks with Arsenal over Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. There are no contacts at all as of now. Well, moving on, because Aubameyang is not on Inter Milan's list of targets to replace Lautaro Martinez, so that is that. But moving on, training session which was held on 22nd of May. You know, the people who actually attended it: Berlano, Martinez, Matt Macy, Bellerin, Tierney, Socrates, Holding, Cedric, Mustafi, Murray, Luis, Kolasinac, Ceballos, Ozil, Ainsley, Maitland-Niles, Willock, Guendouzi, Xhaka, Lacazette, Aubameyang, Pepe, Nelson, Nketiah, Martinelli, and Saka. The missing people were Callum Chambers and Lukita Torreira, and youth players that were called up for it were Matt Smith, Trey Coyle, and Daniel Ballard. Well, moving on, well, Thierry Henry has revealed that he's a huge fan of the Gunners transfer target Odsonne Edouard. Well, according to Ali McCoist, has now let slip Arsenal's all-time top scorer is a big fan also. He said, I spoke to Thierry Henry at the Liverpool versus Leicester City game, and he really rates Edouard. He was saying in France in particular, and he's personally really thinks he's got a chance of going right to the top. Moving on, Cesc Fabregas has revealed that Arsene Wenger cut short a holiday in Paris to meet him as a 15-year-old, pulling out of all the stops to bring him to Highbury from Barcelona. He says, Arsene Wenger was in Paris for a holiday, but he flew in a private jet to meet me. David Dean came to London Colney to meet me. They shocked me in a way like, wow, Arsene Wenger. Unbelievable. This was, for me, was like, wow. And then we spoke to my mother. He spoke to my mother, asked what I was like when I was little. He showed me the training ground and I just fell in love. I fell in love with the whole project, the whole thing. Well, moving on. Well, Arsenal transfer target Kai Havertz has scored twice today in Bayer Leverkusen's win over Borussia Mönchengladbach. Well, he opened the scoring in the 7th minute. He scored from the spot in the second half. The 20-year-old has been directly involved in 17 goals for his club in 2020 with 10 goals and 7 assists. Not bad, isn't it? Well, moving on. Well, Arsenal are unlikely to be throwing around the cash what they did last summer, with the windows actually shaping up to be focused on contract extensions, player sales, and player purchases in exactly that order. Arsenal may look to find a third option at left back in the summer. Paris Saint-Germain's Levan Kurzawa, who is out of contract in the summer, has held talks with Arsenal in January, so that could help. At right back, Ainsley Maitland-Niles has fallen out of contention and is likely to move this summer. Cedric's Southampton contract expires this summer, so given the lack of resources, he could be a valuable pickup to provide cover in that position. Well, moving on. In midfield, Granit Xhaka seems to have committed his long-term future to the club, saying he and Arteta share a vision for the number 6 role for him. William Saliba arrives after his loan back to Saint-Etienne, with him likely to be around the starting 11 from the get-go and possibly anchoring Arsenal's backline for years to come. Well, let's see how that will turn out. Pablo Mari has expressed a desire to make the transfer permanent. Given that Arsenal paid a substantial loan fee to acquire him and the purchase clause is understood to be less than £10 million, he may be a practical signing when the window reopens. Moving on, with David Luiz, Shkodran Mustafi, and Socrates all entering the final years of their contracts, it might be easy to shift one of them for a cut price fee. Mustafi is the youngest of the three, so he should be able to command the highest fee amongst the lot. Well, moving on. Besiktas have inquired about the possibility of keeping Mohamed Elneny for another year with Arsenal. Jeremy Aladier speaks about Nicolas Pepe. He says, if we'd spent £35 million on him, you'd say great signing, but when you think we have paid twice as much, you think he needs to do more. Well, moving on. Cesc Fabregas says about his competitiveness and what he's done for Arsenal. He says, I gave absolutely everything for Arsenal. I was hungry. I wanted to win. I was a competitor. I would have done anything to win for Arsenal if I felt this wasn't coming. A lot of things frustrated me and I decided to go back to Barcelona. Moving on, Arsene Wenger actually spoke about whether he would want to return to Arsenal to watch a game. He says, would I return to the Emirates? I always said to myself that I would be leaving Arsenal completely, and that's the decision I made. Moving on, Arsene Wenger has spoken about Liverpool failing to go invincible. He says, yes, it was a form of satisfaction. We always like to be the only ones to achieve something. Liverpool could really go all the way, but it shows that it's difficult to repeat this feat. Well, Arkadiusz Milik, ladies and gentlemen, his destination could be England, with Arsenal favourites to sign him. The imminent renewal of Dries Mertens opens up new scenarios at this point. The sale of Milik becomes increasingly probable, especially as he has only 1 year left on his contract. So that could be huge, because Arsenal could. Milik is an unbelievable striker. He's been unbelievable in terms of the way he's done things for Napoli. So let's see if we can get Arkadiusz Milik. Former FA and Arsenal chief David Dean says next season should run from February till November. He says rewriting the football calendar could give leagues the time they need to finish the postponed campaigns safely. And Dean believes a season starting in 2021 could have fans in stadiums. In a virtual talks to pupils for the Speakers for Schools charity, well, he said, I'd like to see next season recalibrated. One reason is we don't know what's going to happen. Will this season actually be able to finish in June and July? I wouldn't put pressure on ourselves. If we have to, let's finish the season in October or November. We'd give ourselves ample time for the players to have a break. I'd like to see next season run from February to November. With luck, we could be in a position to have fans back. Well, moving on. Project Restart was boosted with news of just 2 more positive tests in the Premier League. Out of 996 tests conducted last week, 2 people came back positive from 2 different clubs. In the first round of testing, 6 players and staffs from 3 different clubs were found to have COVID-19 from 748 samples. There were more tests this time because Norwich's first set conducted last Tuesday were not included in the initial figures, and because the number of tests per club was increased from 40 to 50. Kai Havertz has remained tight-lipped about his future amid interest from Chelsea and Arsenal. He says, actually, after scoring twice for Bayer Leverkusen against Borussia Mönchengladbach, he was quizzed about his future. He said, I do not like to say, of course, that there is a lot of speculation. I'm concentrating on this season and we'll see what happens afterwards. That's good. That's really smart for a kid to actually respond in that way. That's really okay for me. Well, these were the news of the day. I hope you enjoyed whatever came your way. All the views and news and everything about Arsenal comes on this platform every single day, twice. So what you got to do is subscribe and hit that bell icon, because when I do that, I get 2 videos about Arsenal every single day. And most importantly, please help me reach 5,000 subscribers as soon as possible. You guys can support me reach there. And I think it's high time that our channel moves on to these kind of milestones. I will see you in my next video. Until then, cheers. And don't forget to hit that red button, subscribe.